This week, I'm joined by Eli Leland. Eli is a friend of mine who happens to be a realtor with Team Letellier of Realty One in Biddeford, but also my go-to guy for all the different type of topics that don't quite fit into what this podcast has been so far. The talk of the past few weeks has been about something called ChatGPT. I put something out on Facebook, wanted to talk to someone about it on the podcast. Eli responded. He was the guy I wanted to talk to about it anyways. So here we are recording our thoughts on exactly what it is, how we're using it in our business, the things that we've heard, talk a little bit about what we think the future holds and the things that we're excited about. So it's a conversation that's all over the place, but we had a ton of fun. If you're into this sort of thing, I think you'll really enjoy it. This is the Randy Forcier podcast. If you can do me a huge favor, the podcast is on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. If you could subscribe on one or all of those platforms, I would appreciate it. If you could follow us on social media, it's the Randy Forcier podcast on Facebook and Instagram. That would be awesome as well. Thank you so much for listening. Last week, I put a Facebook post out there asking about who wanted to talk about ChatGPT, which we'll get to what that's all about. I was thinking about reaching out to Eli directly before I even made this Facebook post, so I was glad when you commented about it because I want to have a conversation about it. I think it's really cool. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been watching your podcast for a while. I've been really itching to get up here.
Definitely, dude. Who would have ever thought that it would be about something like this? Is a different kind of episode. Normally I'm profiling business owners, talking to community figures, talking about movies with my brother. But like this is probably the first podcast where I'm having someone on and we're talking about something very specific for 20, 25 minutes, a half hour. But I think this topic is a good first one to be doing that for because to me, ChatGPT has been a pretty big thing for the past few weeks as I've learned more and more about it. And like I said, you'd be a great guy to talk to about it. So how would you describe to someone that didn't know what ChatGPT was, what it was?
So for me, I like to compare things. So I go, have you ever asked Google a specific question? Like, hey, Google, what is the most popular movie out right now or something like that? That's what I compare it to because otherwise I have to just say it's a computer system that'll answer and create anything that a Word document could, but it'll just do it with the correct question.
Yeah. I've had a lot of these conversations over the past few weeks, like trying to describe to like my mom what it is or my wife what it is, or people that don't follow this type of tech stuff, what it is. The way it's described or a definition people would use is ChatGPT is a natural language processing tool driven by AI technology to have human-like conversations and much more. So it's
in layman's terms,
like when you go to Google, it's a very plain website, has the text prompt. You type in whatever you're going to search for, questions that you might have, and you'll get the type of responses that you have. But honestly, ChatGPT doesn't have that different of a feel to it, right? You have a text prompt and you're typing stuff into it and you're getting responses. And instead of getting a bunch of different websites, you're basically getting a response from a chat bot that sounds like you're going back and forth with a person.
Yeah.
The smartest person you'll probably ever meet.
Yeah, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And this was something that I thought was super interesting because like the program itself, it's like you go in there, you ask it any question, but sometimes you got to think that it's a program that you're actually working with. It's a tool. It's a thing that'll help you get the correct answer, but it's a thing. It's not a person or a who. So I was watching this thing, Joe Rogan and Brett Weinstein. I don't know if you saw that. They were talking about fake expertise and consciousness and how it's developed. It was super interesting, but then it tiptoed into the conversation about how consciousness is developed, and if it develops as a thing and we start to create that consciousness, where will it go and will it have the best intentions? I listened to that on the way home from the gym and I was all pumped up. I was like, Here we go. And I went in, I was like, cool, let's see if we can spark some questions to figure out what this thing's intentions are beyond what is like just on its website.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought of was like, okay, well, everybody has principles and have rules to live by, right? And unfortunately, that is the problem. Like I'm thinking of it like it has rules and things to live by when it's a program and it doesn't do any of that. So I immediately ask it these things and it talks about, well, I'm not a thing, but if if it all goes back, it goes back to my creators, and my creators have put in rules in my programming that would be similar to principles as a human. And if that's what they were, these would be them. There were two that really stand out to me, and it was human rights and transparency. And then there was one more. I don't know if you had done any of that.
I hadn't done that, but that sounds super interesting. It is a tool at the end of the day, but you can manipulate it in the way that you ask things. Like, you can ask questions different ways to try to get different type answers. And it sounds like, that's a little bit of what you were doing. So the thing I was going to say about it, though, people would need to know that this chat bot is not connected to the internet. So you're really not searching for some news that happened in the past day. I think that it was cut off from the internet in 2021. So it only has information from prior to 2021. So at some point it'll be connected to the internet, I presume, and it'll work a little bit differently than the way it works now. But it is limited in that sense. But it has analyzed basically all of human writing. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? This computer program has analyzed and has the data and is kind of drawing back to everything that's ever been written when it's responding to your questions and providing you information. Right.
Yeah. So cool.
So I guess with that said, like, talking about, like, that's what it is, right? And it sounds very basic to people that are just, not familiar with how things work, but what are some good use cases that you've seen for it? Either whether you tried it yourself, have talked to people that have tried, stuff that you've watched on different videos. Is there anything that comes to mind? A whole bunch of them. I'll kind of bounce back and forth between them, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I think this is an outrageously beneficial tool, and I've used it for many different things. And it's all about the right question. Like you said, like, if you don't have the right answer, you ask the right question. So for me, I've used it to draft up different writings on real estate. I've looked at, like, I hate to do this because I'm going to very specifically talk about real estate, but there's so many benefits across the board. So for me specifically, I have a hard time with grammar sometimes and the correct terms. So this is a game changer when it comes to creating large amount of content really, really fast. I go, okay, what is the problem? If this is the problem, this is the question to get to the answer to that problem. I put it in, it spits it out, and then I will personalize it for me. So I guess an example for that would be, like, again, I'm in real estate. So what I would do is I go, all right, I want to create a video marketing campaign. So what would that be called? That is a video blog. Crap. One of the big problems of that is coming up with a million ideas to keep people entertained.
Yep.
So I go, chat, give me 100 video blog ideas for real estate. It just goes, I go, sweet.
In 2 seconds, right? In
2 seconds.
Like, you can't even think of 100 things on your own, but this thing spits out 100 of them.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh wait, I don't really know this second one. Like, what are the benefits of a master bedroom on the first floor? It's like, I know it, but, like, I gotta sit there and I gotta think about it. I go, okay, cool. Write me a script for this.
Totally.
Just like that. I'm like, oh, sweet, key points. All right, let's go make a video. Just like
Isn't that insane? I don't know. Like, I don't know why I think it's insane. If anyone's listening to this and doesn't think that's insane, I don't, like, I don't know what it takes for you to, like, something to really blow you away, but, like, that is just mind blowing.
Well, it's because you and I are in that industry. Now you go to the same thing. You go, okay, cool. Jordan Peterson.
I know. I watched. I have some key takeaways from a video that I saw of his. So if you want to start bringing up some of those things, I mean, we talk about a bunch of use cases.
Well, right out of the gate, we got to specifically talk about somebody in that type of industry. He's in, like, psychology or something.
Yeah.
He said he went out, he got access to this, and he went out to a bunch of professors, and he's like, cool, you're a professor of this version of psychology. And I'm sorry, this is the ignorant way of saying this, but he's like, can you write an argument? Paranoia. Just write a very in-depth argument with A, B, and C, and I want you to do that. And so these guys go, sure, whatever, we'll do that. It's an argument that we've been working on for like 20 years, and here it is. Well, then he goes, cool, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Chat comes up with it just like that. And it's equivalent or at least the same argument as somebody that's been in the industry for 20 years. It's like, it's creating content, not only content, but thought-provoking things for anybody. And as long as you're marrying these two, if you're a very good question asker or can ask very thoughtful questions, you can create some crazy stuff, including code. As I think were you messing with the code stuff at all?
I haven't. I figure we'll get to some of that stuff because that isn't a use that I would use it for, but I know people are able to do it for that stuff. Let's
Yeah.
focus on some of the writing stuff because I do want to get to some of the code stuff, but like what it can write for people is pretty mind blowing, right? Some other people I do business with were looking for reviews on themselves at the end of last year. People trying to get reviews for their businesses, whether it's real estate or whatever the case may be. So I sometimes struggle with not repeating myself in reviews that I would leave for people, right? Like I just write the same review for everyone. So I'm like, hey, give me a sample review of a review for a realtor from a loan officer that does business with them, right? So, and the thing spits out this great, like 3-paragraph review that like says a lot of things that I would say. And then I kind of take it and personalize it and all that stuff. But in terms of like a framework and using some correct grammar and ideas, it was spot on, you know? So like, it just saved me, I don't want to say stress, but you want to give a good review for someone when they ask for it. Like you want to use the right words and it just kind of like did that. And then with a little bit of tweaking, you're able to have this like finished product in a lot less time with a lot less issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's wild. It's wild.
Other thing too, I sent you that ebook thing and it's not fleshed out, but like just as a basic concept, I started messing with like, okay, how do you start a podcast? Right? Tell me how to start a podcast. And it spits out 7 steps on how to start a podcast. And then I write, put this into an ebook. All right. So then it spits out this ebook in again 3 seconds that elaborates on those 7 bullet points into like this 2.5, 3-page thing that I now have that people do ask me how to create a podcast like pretty much all the time since I've started doing this. And now it's like a little tool that, again, it's pretty surface level. I'd say it's not like super in depth. They're not going to go into some of the more hardcore stuff, but in terms of like general concepts, things to think about, I have this thing that I can give to people that answers some of those basic questions for them, kind of points them in the right direction. And I took 0 effort. It took ChatGPT 3 seconds to produce.
Yeah, so cool. I will say that I've done stuff in similar nature. I like to create expectations for myself. We've talked about it in the past. So what I'll do is I will go in and I'll say, what is a good review for a real estate agent? And that's like, you think of that and there is no right way to be an entrepreneur because like that's a big topic right now. So something that I noticed with the chatbot here is that it is very by the book, the normal, most regular way of doing things. Like I don't really know how to say it. Like for instance, what is the best structure for a real estate team? This thing spits out the exact way to make the most basic version. Now, you and I know that there's a million ways to do everything. And for every way, it takes a full thought out business plan to make it work. Well, this thing does the most basic version and is like, you need 5 people. This is how you're going to do it. This is what you're going to have in it. This is the layout. And that's the same thing you'll see in everything. So the one thing that I've noticed that it doesn't have is the critical thinking. And that is something that I'm super excited for something like that to come in. Like I go, if 1 equals A and 2 equals B, what's A plus B? Give me that. Like you have to kind of think about it.
And that probably comes at some point, right? Like this thing was just released, I think, right around the holidays. So here we are 3-4 weeks in, maybe a little bit before that. And I'm sure that sort of thing is coming. But in terms of like just accessing knowledge and putting it in a very easy way to understand, very fast. Obviously, there's never been anything quite like it. Couple other use cases that I thought was interesting. I saw on a video, I haven't tried this myself, but someone put all the ingredients that they have in their fridge in the moment, right? Have you heard this?
I have. Yeah, that is so cool.
All the ingredients. It's Andre Jack. You know,
Yeah.
It might be his video because that's where I saw it. But
that's right. I did see that one.
So he put in all the ingredients he had in his fridge and said, "Tell me recipes that I can make using what I have." It was just like a bunch of random stuff that he used for examples, and it spit out 3 legitimate recipes of things that could be made using those ingredients. How to do it, just like you would see in any.
That's freaking cool. Yeah, I mean, like. And the one thing is, like, I'm aggressively trying not to go out, and I've been down in my kitchen. I'm like, okay, well, I got A, B, and C. What the hell am I gonna do with it? And it's always the most boring, bland thing. I am so excited to take advantage of that and actually cook up some cool shit.
But what like a great use for that, and whether or not people do it, and as this thing improves over time, and that sort of thing gets access to more people, like maybe. It's, a really solid app on your phone at some point in the future that does that. I mean, maybe it exists on some limited basis right now, but something like ChatGPT, the way it does it, like if that's accessible on people's phone, like people would probably adopt something like that or be more likely to adopt something like that.
Real quick.
Another thing that a buddy of mine did this, and I thought it was a cool idea. He coaches his kids' flag football team, and he said, give me I think it was like into the chat bot, give me an itinerary for an hour and a half long flag football practice for whatever, my 6-year-old kid or whatever. Thing spits out like a legitimate practice schedule, drills, and things to do over the period of time that he asked for. And I was like, what a freaking amazing idea. Like, wouldn't never have crossed my mind, but people have so many different problems or things that they think about on a daily basis that you could throw at this thing and it would give you those type of solutions. I mean, next time I get into coaching, like that is something that I'll try. Give me a practice schedule for today.
It's really cool. It's because like one of the things that I was thinking about today, I had a meeting with somebody about something, and we're sitting there and we're talking about it, and something just jumped into my head. Probably because we're gonna have this, but it's about the ability to ask the right question.
As far as like using it in my business, I could see producing some content with it or using it as a baseline for producing real estate or mortgage related content. I don't know what that schedule looks like or how, but I could see leaning on it for some writing stuff. I mean, you could ask it to write a book on something, like, or at least like an essay, write me an essay on the appraisal process for someone trying to buy a home, and it would spit something out. So it's just a matter of coming up with the ideas.
I will say that, like, just to that use case, I remember I told Michelle, my partner, we were talking about it. I was like, you should see this crazy thing. And she's like, what is it? And she downloaded it. And I was like, ask it anything. She's in nursing school right now. So I was like, ask it anything. Ask me a process for something. She's like, wet to dry, dressing change, step by step. Give me the whole procedure. Type it in, boom, procedure, spit it out. I was like, oh, there it is. Then she's like, okay, I've done that all day. Let's do something fun. She's like, tell it to write a story. And I was like, okay, give me a character. And I don't know if you saw that cat in the hat thing that I did. That went straight through. I went in and I was like, tell me a story about a cat in a top hat eating ice cream. Go. And it came up with a story. And then I go, okay, cool. And she goes, I want something better. And I was like, okay, what do you want? She's like, give me a rap. And I was like, okay, make that into a gangster rap. Boom, spit it right out.
But that's something you should remember, though, because you can carry on a conversation. It remembers its last response, right? So you can say, make me a story about a cat in a top hat. It'll do that. And then, like you said, you make that to a gangster rap, and it'll reference what it was previously talking about. It's not like you have to restart the question.
Yeah. And that actually led to something super interesting. I don't know if you want me to talk about it now, but it was something. So we go back to that thing about that Brett Weinstein and Joe Rogan topic. They were talking about like what happens when it actually can make its own decisions. You know that movie Ex Machina or whatever, where the robot gets the guy to fall in love and then she just turns around and walks away and kind of takes advantage of human. Yeah, it takes advantage of the human, just the regular human weaknesses. And so I'm sitting there with Michelle. I just watched that little clip out of the podcast. So I'm already like, shit, I gotta look at these. I got to see what rules this thing has. Again, it's not human, so I had to figure that word out too. That was a struggle. And when I did, I get all that. And again, human rights, that's key, and transparency, key, right? Even if I go deeper, like that's about all the information I get. So then I'm sitting there with Michelle, and she does that, and I'm more into horror. Like I love horror movies. I love that creepy idea, creepy stuff. So I do that. Have you ever heard of MC Escher? He's the artist that created that square of people walking up and down stairs, and it's just all over, right? Yeah, I love that art. So I said, write me a story about a guy in hell, and its theme is MC Escher. I was like, go. And it creates it. And then I was like, but make it a crappy ending, and then make it longer. So I didn't read the whole thing, but I read the last 2 paragraphs, and it gave me chills. The last 2 paragraphs, it said, okay, this guy, basically, he realizes that he's never going to find a way out. He's in hell, and he's forever going to be tortured. But he finds hope in the fact that someday he'll get out. So he gets up and he continues traveling the endless road and always working. And I was like, what is that telling me? Like, it gives me the chills right now. The robot is able to understand that a human will continue as long as it believes that it has a goal. So, in other words, it will put us on a never-ending track and have us be productive, and we'll always think that we're doing something. And I was like, that is the creepiest thing I've ever freaking read. Anyway.
That's like insight into like how it thinks.
Yeah, it was like, oh man. But I will say that if it's talking about human rights, at least we'll have a cake at the end of that. At least it'll treat us well.
I mean, that kind of leads to like, what are the potential concerns that you would have, or dilemmas that you see from this type of technology being available?
Well, so right out of the gate, you're thinking about it and you go, okay, well, this thing's going to replace us. And I'll say, after watching Alex Hormozi, his video about like how to become a millionaire, like
that's the one you sent me, and I found it very fascinating.
I love that version. That guy's a deep thinker, and he touched on so many different things. But like one of the big things is like, oh, it's going to replace me, and you're going to have robots doing everything, and people may not like it. And what else did I get? I've actually been talking about this with a lot of people. It's funny because everybody keeps going, Eli, what do you think? I'm like, but it's doing all that. And the big takeaway, thank God I watched this guy's video first, is AI isn't here to replace me. It's here to supercharge me. Mm-hmm. So you can use this as like, it's junk, I don't want to use it, and it's intimidating, and how am I going to know if anybody's real? There's going to be these fake entrepreneurs or fake experts in these different things, but the reality is once you're sitting down in front of somebody, you're going to know if they're full of crap or not. And the other thing is like, this is literally just going to supercharge us. You have all these capabilities. So I think, again, you're going to have these fake experts. You're going to have job replacements. And it was interesting because it's like the high level jobs are the ones that are at risk. And it turns out the low level, like getting the job done, are the ones that right now are safe. And then it all leads in. And there was another guy that was talking about creating that universal basic income so that it supports this and it all works together. And I was just sitting there, and it's if anything, it's just an intimidating idea to just sit and think about, because it's a disruptor. I was talking to Josh Lagasse today. It's simply a disruptor. It's like, what will happen?
Yeah, people will find ways to take advantage of it and use it to make money, to be more successful in their business and their life. It's just like any other new technology. So I do like that idea of using it to supercharge you, right? That's just a positive spin on things, which I appreciate, and it's probably the best way to look at it right now. But honestly, it probably will replace some jobs, right? There are some things that this type of technology is capable of eliminating at some point. Good or bad, it kind of is what it is. I mean, it's just kind of like how you have the technology when you go on a Panera at McDonald's to order food, or a self-checkout at Hannaford. Like, there is technology that has replaced jobs, and this stuff will probably replace some jobs, but I mean, it is kind of what it is. It might create new jobs for people too. One of the concerns that I have having kids is how this affects my kids' education. Is it going to be too much of a crutch for kids going to school to learn? I mean, to write papers. I mean, everything, if you've listened to the first, 28 minutes of this thing, you know that this thing can basically write anything in 3 seconds. So what's to stop my kid in high school to say, hey, write me a book report on whatever book, and have this thing spit it out in, again, 2 seconds? How does that get controlled? I don't know that there's a good answer for that.
So it was funny because before all this stuff went in, I don't remember what podcast I was watching, but it was probably, have you ever heard of the channel Think Big? Mm-hmm. So I was watching something on that, and it was talking about the idea of the question, not the answer. Being able to ask a million questions to get to your understanding so that you can better learn. So I don't remember the guy that came in, he wrote the 5-Hour Work Week and all those, and he was like,
Tim Ferriss.
What's that?
Tim Ferriss?
Yes. He said, I knew this guy that he thought it was hilarious because he would sit with somebody and he would just like, I don't understand. Could you explain? And he would say that over and over and over and over. And it's like, well, that's a really interesting idea, to just be able to ask the correct question. And instead of putting the emphasis on the answer, we have to rethink and be able to ask the correct question so the answer just is there. It just happened that I watched that, and then all of a sudden this AI thing just blew up, and I was like, I am so good at asking questions. Because growing up for me, that was what I had to do. I was in that age of when middle school hit, that's when the internet took over. I remember typing in my first internet website, but at the same time, I also remember being at the library and having to learn how to pull books and research each book. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm just going to go online. Cool. I'll just ask the computer and it'll pull up the correct documents and I'll do the research that way. So now we're creating the next evolution of that, where the answer is based on the correct question and how you present it. So I think the long form writing might be a little tricky to regulate, but I don't know if you've noticed there's the AI detectors that people can use, and they'll start tiptoeing on that.
So just to explain that, there is software that you can run long form writing through, and it would detect if it was generated by an AI similar to like ChatGPT, which would give me hope in that scenario, but it's only a matter of time before something comes out on the other side of things that can pass those detectors. And maybe the answer is it gets away from the long form writing, right? Like maybe that doesn't mean it as a sign of intelligence, and maybe the focus does get put on the questions or some other way of grading things. But if it stayed the way that it was now, and kids had to do a book report a month and hand that in, that can be done for you in a second right now. You know what I mean?
So what's the answer then? If it's just one book a month, why wouldn't you just do one a day? Because you can just go on, get a summary, get the bullet points, and then you have to interpret what you just learned.
Yeah, so I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's like, hey, read this book and then come into class and you're going to write an on the spot book report in pencil, you know what I mean, to show that you actually understand what you're saying or did a little bit of legwork. But you can write into ChatGPT, give me a summary of this is 7 habits of highly effective people, ask for a summary in that, and they can do that in, again, 3 seconds right now. So I don't know what the answer to it is, but it is concerning for me as a parent of children that are in school right now and how this is going to play out for them. Because obviously my oldest daughter has no idea what this is, but in the next couple of years, she absolutely will. And not that I think she would use it to cheat, but I know people that absolutely would.
I think I'm in a unique situation. I went to South Portland High School, and when I went through the program, there was a shop class, and we learned how to use our hands to build things, and that immediately switched to an online program of photo editing and computer literacy skills. And now, as far as I understand, woodworking and any sort of trade has totally been moved out of the school, and it's a niche thing where certain kids will go and do it and others won't. And it's interesting because like just while I was there, I noticed like all these social changes of development, like culture change. So the education has to change so that it best fits the future of where we're going. Unfortunately, with this, the AI is going to be moving at such a rapid pace that 10 years of computer growth, it did a lot. Like I said, I watched like the first time I typed something in to when I graduated and I could answer any question because I would just cheat and pull it from Spark Notes or something. Now you have a bot that can create any document that a school needs, but you said this is one of the first. This is number 3. This is chatbot number 3. When we get to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, what is that going to look like? And is that going to be in 10 years or is that going to be in like 4 years?
Yeah.
Because it has the ability to grow at such a rapid pace that it's crazy.
Well, again, you have to think of this thing as something that when you're asking the question is drawing off of basically all written knowledge versus even the smartest people in the world. As that continues to grow, it's only gonna get more amazing. So I don't know, man, it's wild times. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm definitely excited about it. I'll continue to follow it and I'm honestly going to try to use it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
One of the things too, before we wrap up, that I thought was interesting, because right now this is a text thing, right? Like you're just kind of typing into this prompt, it's giving you a response in text, but at some point there's going to be this ability to talk with this thing, right? Maybe even have like a video generated person that you're talking to, so you feel like you're talking to another human. But one of the things in the video that you sent over, the Google AI that's not released to the public at this point, they did a kind of like a demonstration, I guess, is the word, of it booking a haircut for the person. It is basically like an assistant to a person, and this is one way that you could use it. And it was booking the appointment for a haircut over the phone, right? Do you remember this?
Yep.
And it was a voice that you would not be able to tell was a computer talking to another human being that it did not realize it was talking to a computer. And it was going through the process of scheduling something for someone. And it kind of worked to the point that it scheduled it, and it was fine. No one knew any different. But like, imagine when that is available.
And then it comes down to like, are you going to prefer something that is straight to the point and will get the answer that you need, or do you want a person that you might not be able to understand or may not be able to read, that you're getting really mad at them and stuff? It's a really interesting concept, and I'm personally excited for it. So, and I do want to say that there's already programs that I've messed with that are AI that will feather your writings that you pull from this and change it from AI to human. I have programs that will create pictures, and I have programs that will create full slideshows with directed content. And the other thing that Alex was saying, I believe, is that if you can create pictures, and you can create more than one picture, because like I don't remember the app, but like if you can do it, you can create full videos and create people, especially with that website. I don't know if you've seen it, that website of this person doesn't exist, and it's just endless pictures of people that don't exist.
It's this person doesn't exist.com.
Yeah.
And if you went there, and I think it's a very basic website, it just shows a picture of a person when you go to the website.
Yeah.
But every time you refresh it, there's probably a refresh button. It's showing you a picture of a person that was created by a computer, but it looks like indistinguishable from a photograph. It's freaking wild. So like you just said, if you can create one picture like that, you can create many. And that's just basically what a video is. And there's already software that can create audio, right? The software that I use to edit this podcast is something called Descript. And I've mentioned in the past, you can read that thing like a 10-minute script, and it can replicate your voice. I haven't used it in that sense, but like if I wanted to insert something into a podcast that I didn't say, just by typing it and using my voice, it can do that. So when you combine all these things, it's a weird future ahead.
It's hard to wrap your mind around all the possibilities and the things that it could possibly do. It's a wild west of AI. Here we go.
Totally, dude. I guess I didn't think that like that's what 2023 would be all about, but it does seem like 2023 is the year that this stuff really moved into the mainstream.
Yeah,
it seems. I feel like this is all that people really are talking about, at least the people I have conversations with, or the information that I consume.
Yeah, it's the hot topic right now. I'm watching all the personal financing stuff and business development stuff, and it is just everywhere. Like you reached out, and as soon as you reached out, I was like, I wonder what's on there. And it was just like dump load of stuff. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I can do my homework today.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, anyways, it'll be interesting, dude. I appreciate you coming on to talk about it. It's something we'll continue to talk about, find ways to incorporate into our business, maybe do a follow-up on this at some point in the future.
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks for having me, dude. This is awesome.
Awesome, buddy. We'll keep it going, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, later.